Welcome again to Hidden Meanings. We've been talking about the light that is actually your true identity. And we started this off by explaining that the first part of life that you can understand occurs when your mother and father have sexual intercourse and a human body begins to form in your mother's womb, and your mother nurtures that through her own body. And then at the third month, a pineal gland begins to form in the fetus. When that pineal gland is formed, it's the light receptor of the body. At that point, it can then pick up on an angle of light which descends from above, which is a photon. That's you. You come down as an angle of light, you enter into your mother's body, find your way through the pineal gland of the fetus, and you begin to animate that electrically, and that is who you really are. Your body picks up chromosomes from your father, chromosomes from your mother, and in those are genetics and all of the crazy stuff from your family tree. You get diseases more than somebody else gets diseases, or you get less, or you look the way you do, you're the color you are, and then your mother and father get you when you come out of the womb, and they start to train you, and you start to take after them. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. And then you have the government, and they say, well, you're going to have to live this way because you're a citizen of this country, or the religion says this is what you have to believe, and you don't know, you're a mess. But still there's that light inside of you that is untouched by all of this lunacy. And it is lunacy, because, I mean, my God, 2,000 years of the earth, and it's a violent, violent place. Superstitions and cults running around killing each other, and all waiting to go to heaven. When you start to go into meditation, and I'm not talking about the meditation that takes a half hour or 45 minutes or 20 minutes, but I'm talking about a meditation that takes 5 seconds. You close your eyes to separate from the outside. You tell yourself you're watching yourself. The suggestion to your mind that you're watching yourself causes the light which is within you, which is a wave, and the light that's coming to you, which is a wave, to collapse to a particle. The light inside of you lines up with the pineal gland. That which is coming to you collapses to a particle, lines up with the pineal gland, and then you're in a harmony with what you call God. You hold your breath for 5 seconds, which shuts off your carnal mind, and that's all you have to do. You don't do anything. You don't see anything. You don't try to accomplish anything. It's done by what you call God. In the same way that when you put food in your mouth, you don't give instructions to your body. Well, now, this is how you digest this. You don't know how to digest your food. It happens automatically. Well, meditation is the same thing. You don't know how to collapse the wave. It happens automatically. You don't know how to line up in harmony with the universe. It happens automatically. But as this transition begins to take place, you move into a whole new dimension of awakening. Awakening to a new existence that you've always yearned for, that you feel inside of you. Yes, you may go to church. Yes, you may do all of these things with your different group, but you know doggone well when you get home and you're by yourself, you're having these doubts, you're having these feelings. You know, what is it anybody has ever promised you? Nothing, but you live and you die. Never telling you that the body that you're in dies in the same way that the car that you have goes to the junkyard, but you don't go with it. The light that is in you teleports. They've teleported photons in laboratories in Innsbruck, Austria, and in California. They've destroyed the photons, and the light shows up 3 feet away. You can't destroy it. When your body is destroyed for whatever reason, that light or photon leaves it and finds another body, and another fetus, and another woman's womb. That's why people, it's funny because you've probably had 1,000 lifetimes, and people say, oh, I can't wait to go to heaven to see my mother. Which mother do you want to see? You've had 1,000 of them. Well, there's a great saying in Zen, which is Buddhism. Because basically, when you hold your breath for that 5 seconds, you're kind of simulating, if you would, the death of the body. And when the body dies, this is exactly what happens. When the body dies, the wave inside, which is the light, collapses to a particle, and that particle of light leaves the body via the pineal gland. You say, well, it's the spirit leaving. Well, the people in the Middle Ages said it was the spirit leaving because they didn't know about photon. You have no right to believe in spirit now because you do know about photon. Science has told you about photon. I mean, there is no such thing as spirit. There has to be a logical explanation of if people get healed or whatever happens, something physical has to happen to the organs and the glands of the body. And that's done by electromagnetism. But anyhow, when you hold your breath and you collapse the wave to a particle, and it lines up with the universe and puts you in a harmony with God, you're duplicating what happens when the body dies. And so that's why in the Zen saying they say, if you die before you die, then when you die, you will not die. Because you practice this lining up at harmony. I mean, what kind of a chore is this to do this for 5 seconds? You close your eyes, you can do that, right? You say, I'm watching myself, you can do that. And you hold your breath for 5 seconds, you can do that. That will revolutionize your life and bring you into a harmony with God. And don't tell me that there's any cult or any of that nonsense. I mean, that's what religion will tell you. But remember, it was Jesus who said, what I say to you, I say to all. Watch. Watch what? Watch yourself. Do it and see the changes in your life. Otherwise, you're never going to get to that promised land. You're never going to get to that place of understanding. You're never going to elevate yourself as a mature individual away from cults and groups and religions to where you can really look God and say, God, it's you and me. I'm a person. I'm not separated from all the other people. I'm not separated from all the animals. I'm not separated from all nature. I'm all part of this with you. It brings you right to the point where you can begin to see and communicate. And you don't have to be accompanied by someone else. You don't have to have someone else looking over your shoulders. Oh, you shouldn't do this or you shouldn't do that. Because you don't care what they say anymore because now you're an individual and you are separated from all of that stuff. Just do it. You can prove the reality of this simply by holding your breath and noticing how your thoughts stop. Hold your breath for 5 seconds. And during that period of 5 seconds, your mind will shut down. Did I say that your breath stops? Your mind stops. Hold your breath for 5 seconds. Your mind stops. You won't have a thought. You've shut yourself off from the physical, and you've returned to the light, which is the real true you inside. So this is what life is. Religion has taught that everyone can go to heaven and everyone can fly up to paradise and be saved and all of this stuff. But you know through your own experience in life that in order to do different things in life, you have to know what you're doing. And what I'm giving you, what I'm telling you to do, does not require you to read anything, study anything, know anything. Close your eyes, tell yourself you're watching yourself, and hold your breath for 5 seconds. It's not a big challenge. But you have to know it. And the Bible, the Vedas, the Sutras, Allah, everything, everybody talks the same thing. It is within inside of you. You have to find the center. So you transcend the mind. Nobody else is knowing anything about it. But until someone shows them, they never will know. And what I have told you, it's between you and you. But if you do it, wonderful things will happen, change in your life. Do it for other people. Say, I am watching myself for so-and-so, who, person may be sick. When they start to look within themselves, that wave will collapse inside of them, and they then will receive the particle that you have sent them. But of course, I know that there are those of you who are so tied up in traditions, even though you see the whole Holocaust that you've caused in this earth because of these traditions, you won't change it. You simply are more consumed in your physical daily activities, but that's totally up to you. It's none of my business. It isn't good, bad, or indifferent. It's your decision. You've made it in this life. You do whatever you want to do. That's important. I've told you about Pluto and Charon and how they moved out of the orbit of Neptune and have assumed the position that was spoken of back in Greek mythology thousands of years ago, proving to you that the discoveries of Pluto and Charon were foretold by an extraterrestrial intelligence. They were. The people of classical Greece who gave you science and atomic energy and mathematics and philosophy and medicine. And what do you think? I mean, who taught them this? Where'd they come from? The rest of the world was selling sheep and splitting rocks, and these people were talking about atomic energy. Well, you know, one of the great lines that I've heard, or one of the great explanations about meditation that I've ever heard, came from Mother Teresa. Someone asked Mother Teresa, how do you pray? What do you say to God? And Mother Teresa said, I don't say anything. I listen. And then they said, well, as you listen, what does God say to you? And Mother Teresa says, he doesn't say anything. He listens. There it is. Close your eyes. Tell yourself you're watching yourself. Hold your breath for 5 seconds and listen. And then at the same time know that God is listening to you, and that silence will cause a harmony of life, healing, and love, and get you out from amongst this cult mania that we have all over the world of religions and governments who have done nothing but attack one another violently throughout the ages. Such is the nature of true communication with God. All is still, all is quiet, all is dark. No one thinks, no one speaks, not a word. All nature simply listens. I've been telling you about Pluto and Charon and how important the movement that was accomplished from one orbit to another on February the 11th, 1999 was. The National Aeronautics and Space Administration Space Science News put out a release, and it says, much ado about Pluto. Recent discoveries of Pluto-like objects in the outer solar system have sparked debate about the nature of this tiniest planet. Now, why are they all of a sudden so interested? Remember, Pluto has a big part to play in the upheavals upon the Earth right now, because it's changing the consciousness. And you say, well, that's bad because, our traditional values. Your traditional values were built on slavery. Your traditional values were built on oppressing women. When you clean your house, isn't that good? But who is it bad for? It's bad for the dirt. The National Aeronautics and Space Administration, in talking about Pluto and Charon moving, said that it talked of the solar system becoming a bit mixed up in 1979. That's when this first happened, when Pluto moved closer to the Sun than Neptune. And then the topsy-turvy situation was rectified on Thursday, February the 11th, 1999, when Pluto crossed Neptune's orbit and became the 9th planet, the farthest planet away from the Sun. Isn't that interesting? What's so interesting to me is that the people who we call Greeks, who were actually from another planet that I'll tell you about one day where they were from, these people told us about Pluto and Charon thousands of years ago. Thousands of years ago. We didn't know there was such a thing as Pluto and Charon. And there wasn't until 1930 we found Pluto. And in 1978 we found Charon, the little gray satellite orbiting it. So then we knew that exactly what they had said thousands of years ago was in the sky. Because now we had evolved to the point where we could discover it. So our time had arrived. And then February the 11th, just a few months ago, 1999, Pluto and Charon moved out of the orbit of Neptune, and they are positioned back to the farthest from the Sun as the doorway to the next world, ready to fulfill the other things that were talked about in the mythologies of the ancient Greeks. And you say, well, how do these people, and ancient Greeks, because they weren't ancient Greeks, they were from another planet? Doesn't that sound weird to say that? Sounds great, though. But that's right. They were from actually, they were from a galaxy called 4555. You should go to your planetarium and take a look. You'll find it. It's in the constellation Coma, which is mother and child, and the zodiacal sign Virgo, the Virgin. As it says, a virgin shall conceive. What? This whole life that is looking down, this whole life that descended on the earth, we call them the classic Greeks, Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, Zeno, Hippocrates, Democritus, and all of it. And they gave you the foundation of your scientific culture and your philosophy. Mathematics, give it all of this. And they wrote the Bible. They wrote the entire New Testament, and then in 300 BC rewrote the Bible into Greek. And they were the ones who gave you Pegasus, which you find riding through the Bible in Revelation 19 as the white horse that Jesus returns on. Wow. So anyhow, NASA was very interested in all of this activity going on in Pluto and Uranus and so forth and so on. And then as we studied that, we started to realize the effect that Pluto is having on the Earth. Because it emanates from Pluto electromagnetism when it's changed its position. So the magnetism is going to be different if it's over here than when it was over there. If the angle is going to be different. And if the angle is different, it's going to impact the brain, and the brain is going to think differently. You know, to me, it's amazing that we don't have enough, seem to be common sense to realize that we are affected by the electromagnetism which comes down from above, from the planets. We are. Pluto is in perpetual darkness. And basically, it is a rumbling, a thundering, a change, chaos and confusion. Exactly what has been racing across the world since 1900, when Uranus actually started to make its move, when we developed the light bulb. Don't you see? We walked around in darkness until the beginning of the Aquarian Age, which somewhere you started to feel the first twinges of it about 1900. We discovered a light bulb. And then we started discovering this and that, radios, television, airplanes, rockets, internets, computers, calculators, all this kind of stuff. And we become very sophisticated. But remember, we discovered our light bulb 100 years ago because that's when the magnetism reached the Earth that opened the gates so that we could start understanding things. What about people who live on planets who discovered their light bulb 25,000 years ago? Where do you think they are in comparison to us now? People who can teleport themselves from one galaxy to another. Like that. Forget the speed of light, they just show up. And so all of these things then become very interesting for us as we start to see the changes upon the Earth, the falling away of all of these traditional things that we thought were so important are turned upside down, and then we read what these people taught us. That is exactly what Pluto and Uranus do. The beginning of all things that you and I really in our culture have studied began in the myths out of ancient Greece, which of course, as I am suggesting to you, were not people of the earth, but people from another place. That is what Pluto and Chiron signify. They signify a mystery, that from out of that which is the dark and barren will come all that is new. That's why in the Bible, every child of promise, whether it be Samson or John, whether it be Jacob, they're all born out of a woman who is either virgin or barren. All of this comes, the child of promise will come from the barren womb. And according to the ancients, the physical world was not born from nothing. It sprang from something you know very well. It sprang out of chaos. Out of chaos comes creation. You can't have this newness unless this this chaos occurs, this change, and that's why people on the earth are in such an upheaval. What's going on? I mean, our lives are being turned upside down, our traditional values and all of these things. Everything becomes chaotic because something new is coming upon the earth. Chaos was born out of darkness. So no one witnessed the birth. And I'm going back to try to show you where this came from in the ancient writings. But the birth of our new civilization, you can write this date down, it will be shown to have come out of the darkness, which was symbolized by the movement of Pluto and Charon, February the 11th, 1999. In chaos, everything was confusion. And that's what you're seeing now. And that's what is being foretold. I mean, we're waiting for these solar storms to happen in the summer of 1999, which is supposed to affect all of the satellites and the internet and all of the phones and all of this business. And then Y2K and the year 2000. It's all part and parcel as you evolve and as you become more advanced technologically, you set yourself up for great chaos, because all of these things that you've invented that give your life so much more meaning are also subjected to the same electromagnetism that your brain is. And when they go into chaotic states and in confused states, so does the human mind go into chaotic states and confused states. The chaos and the confusion that you feel in your very own life, that the society and the civilization feels. When people say, well, we've got kids going to school with guns and shooting each other and killing each other, and what's going on? You invented the guns. That's part of your culture. That's part of your evolution technologically. I mean, don't you remember in the early days, the old days, when they used to have wars? One group would come down one hill with their swords and their shields, and the other group would come down the other hill with their swords and their shields, and they'd fight with one another and they'd kill one another. Who cares? I mean, it was just soldiers killing soldiers. But as we advanced technologically, we invented airplanes, and that was good because, wow, we're going to be able to fly across the country, and we're going to be able to fly to different places, and we're going to be able to use this for all wonderful things. But the bad guys used it too, didn't they? And then when we invented an airplane, somebody realized, you know what, we can drop bombs from this. Wow. Well, now we've gotten to the point where we got smart bombs. They can go right down your chimney. We don't even have to get near the town, so we don't have to get hurt. We can just press a button and we can blow everything up. We can kill everybody. And then, Democritus of ancient Greece taught us about atomic energy and the movement of electrons and the atom and so forth. That's where the word came from. And that was great. And when we found, and you can use it to light up a whole city with electricity. It's wonderful. But the bad guys found out we can blow up a whole town just like that, kill everybody. When you have this thing now that we're experiencing of the kids going around shooting people in schools, you have to try to understand that there are 40 million teenagers, and 7 or 8 of them have done this. You're never going to be able to stop 7 or 8 people from doing things like this. And as your culture develops and provides more and more sophisticated technological things for people to use for good, other people, when they get in depressed moods or get in bad moods, are going to use the same thing for bad. It's the way it is. I remember some time ago where a guy went up to the top of the Empire State Building and to shoot somebody. Well, say, 6 people got in the elevator, 5 of them were going to go up to see the view, 1 was going to go up to shoot somebody. Well, the elevator didn't have any opinion about who was going up. It carried everybody up. See, if there was no elevator, he could have never walked up those flights of stairs, so he couldn't have gotten up there to kill anybody. So what I'm saying is that as you develop and your culture develops, you then have the fact that the person who will use what you've invented for good will use it for bad. I mean, come on. Let's say there's God up on a planet somewhere. And God looks at the reports coming up from Earth. Gee, God, 2 kids shot 14 kids in school. Isn't that awful? What would God say? Well, I see over here that this guy is ethnic cleansing and he's killed them by the thousands. And then you got these other guys with their smart bombs and they're blowing everybody to pieces. They're killing them by the thousands. I think that's more serious over there. How can you blow up people? How can you shoot people? How can you destroy people? And ever since you've been alive, you've read about people bombing people, killing. What kind of example does the culture set? And then they say, oh, well, the kids got guns. This is terrible. Of course they have guns. We've accommodated it. We've said, well, if we're not happy with the way somebody else is living in some other place, we're just going to bomb them. Or we're going to do this, we're going to do that. That's the nature, it's the way we live. And then when they all come home from the war, we go to church and we thank God that he was on our side. Or the other group goes to the temple or to the church or wherever they go, and they thank God that God was on their side. It's a mess. And it's a mess because we have not found this individuality within ourselves that allows us to say, I do not want to be a part of this group anymore. I do not want to be a part of religion. I do not want to be a part of the government. I want to be myself. And I want to be one with everybody. And I don't want anybody telling me I can't be friends with so-and-so. Not because of what they did, just because of who they are. That's sick. And that's the way we are. And so when you see the confusion and you see the chaos, then you see kids shooting and you see older people shooting and you see bombs dropping. It's not just kids shooting. You can't get all upset because kids shot somebody in school while our government is dropping bombs on people in a town while the other government is ethnic cleansing people. Everybody's got a piece of this. And it's all part of the violence. It's all part of the confusion. And it's not something that happened just in 1999. This has been going on since 1900s, the late 1890s. That was part when the Aquarian thing started. I mean, this change was going to come about. How many wars have you had? You have Vietnam War, the Korean War, the First World War, the Second World War. I mean, you had the Civil War, you had the Spanish-American War, you had Jews and Arabs killing each other in Israel, you had Protestants and Catholics machine gunning each other in Ireland. It's never stopped. And they all go to church. And so the confusion that you're seeing now and the killings that are going now is simply acting out what we have laid down because of our evolution. We have discovered these powerful things, but we never realized that if we are going to use them as a group or as a cult, then those within our own group or cult are going to use them for reasons other than what we thought, and it could get violent. Well, good things are coming out of this too, and we're going to talk about that down the road as we see all of these spectacular discoveries that are being made and things that are being listened to from outer space. It's going to be exciting, and it's up to you to find that light within yourself and get on a harmony with the messages that are coming down to keep you safe. I'll see you next week on Hidden Meanings. Bye-bye.